This is the Beatleverse Mini-Albums, where I take a Beatles album and shrink it down to 7 essential songs, no more, no less. Using a patented, pataphysical 4-step process to squeeze out the pure Beatles concentrate and create a mini-album that is a superior listening experience to the original Beatles album. Ladies and gentlemen, please please me. Step 1, opener and closer. I made a video called the Epic Beatles Opener and Closer Tier List, and right off the bat, this album, the Beatles' debut Please Please Me, featured 2 of the Beatles' very best tracks in the opener and closer category. I Saw Her Standing There and Twist and Shout are proof positive that the cute, mop-top, poppy Beatlemania Beatles were actually hardened rockers from the seedy and sleazy clubs of the sinful Reeperbahn district in Hamburg, Germany. I Saw Her Standing There is a rocker, one of the best openers on a debut album in rock history. Twist and Shout features John Lennon's epic one-take, back-of-the-throat screaming rock vocal. Twist and Shout is also the most famous and iconic cover song in the history of rock and roll. It's also the only cover song to make the cut on any Beatleverse mini-album. That's how good and important this song is. Obviously, both I Saw Her Standing There and Twist and Shout make the cut. Step 2, the singles. The first single is Love Me Do, first released in 1962. This is the Beatles' very first single, the song that introduced the Beatles to the world. The album version is different from the single version because Ringo is not on drums. Session drummer Andy White is the drummer, and Ringo is relegated to tambourine. But that's a good thing, because it's that Ringo rhythm that makes the song pop. Andy White does a great job on the drums, but it's Ringo's brilliant tambourine playing that makes the album version superior to the single. Listen to both versions back to back. You'll see what I mean. Also, Love Me Do is one of those Beatles tracks that never gets old. It sounds of its time, and yet, unlike anything that came before or since, it's a unique Beatles track. It also features John Lennon on harmonica, a defining sound of the Beatles in the early days. The lyrics are simple and childlike. Kids love it. However, the song structure is deceptively simple. It was difficult enough for Originals Beatles drummer Pete Best to screw it up in the Decca audition. Love Pete Best, but the evolution of Love Me Do on record is why I say, no Ringo, no Beatles. Even if it is Andy White on drums. Love Me Do makes the cut. The next single is the title track, Please Please Me. Love Me Do is the Beatles' first single. Please Please Me is the Beatles' first #1 single. Truth be told, I've never been a huge fan of this song, but Please Please Me unlocks the Pandora's box of Beatlemania. The energy, the harmonies, the double entendres, the super catchy melodies, and hook after hook after hook. There are so many hooks in this song, it should be illegal. And the drums. Anyone who dismisses Ringo as no more than an average drummer has no more than an average intellect. Please Please Me makes the cut. Step 3, George and Ringo songs. George has 2 lead vocals on the album, Chains and Do You Want to Know a Secret. Chains is a cover song. It's good, but not good enough to make the cut. Do You Want to Know a Secret is an original Lennon-McCartney track. This is one of those songs that seems familiar the first time you hear it. So familiar that you might even assume it's a cover, just like Chains. But it's not. It's an original that sounds like an old standard from the 20s or 30s. Written by John Lennon in 1962, this track is an early example of the Beatles' songwriting prowess. You can hear all of the influences that John and Paul soaked up over the years. British music hall, musical theater, children's songs, it's all right here in Do You Want to Know a Secret. Ironic that it's a John original, considering how much he teased Paul for writing Granny songs. Here's the proof that John is the original Granny songwriter. Do You Want to Know a Secret makes the cut. Ringo's song on the album is Boys, a good first track for Ringo. The song rocks, but it's a cover, so it does not make the cut. That means we have 5 songs for the mini-album. We need 2 more. Step 4, Wildcard songs. And the 2 songs I'm choosing are absolute gems. One from the Please Please Me album, and one far more obscure. First song, P.S. I Love You. This was the B-side to the Love Me Do single, and also features Andy White on drums, with Ringo on maracas. By the way, the reason Ringo doesn't play drums on Love Me Do and P.S. I Love You is because producer George Martin had booked a session drummer in place of Pete Best, and didn't know that the Beatles had replaced Pete Best with Ringo, and that's why we have Andy White as the resident 5th Beatle on Please Please Me. P.S. I Love You is the earliest example of Paul's balladeering, and it's a perfect homage to the 50s sound and style of love songs. Paul also has one of my favorite moments on the album, with his "You know I want you to remember" line near the end of the song. P.S. I Love You makes the cut. And the last song to make the cut is not from the album, was never a single for the Beatles, and was a lost original Beatles track until the release of the Beatles live at the BBC compilation in 1994. The song is I'll Be On My Way, written by Paul way back in 1959. Of all the Beatles' lost and forgotten and underrated gems, this might be the best and brightest. I'll Be On My Way was originally given to early Beatles friend Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas. The song was the B-side to Kramer's single, Do You Want to Know a Secret? In 1963, John and Paul were already giving away songs to other artists. They had discovered publishing. I'll Be On My Way is an early example of John and Paul's songwriting. You can hear them learning the craft. Similar to Do You Want to Know a Secret, I'll Be On My Way sounds like a cover song. It's an excellent homage to Buddy Holly and the Crickets, with lovely harmonies reminiscent of the Everly Brothers. The Beatles themselves dismissed this song, especially the lyrics, which is why they never bothered to record it, until this live version for the BBC on April 4th, 1963. I say the Beatles made a mistake. I'll Be On My Way could have and should have been on the Please Please Me album, and that's why I'm correcting that mistake by putting it here on the Please Please Me Mini-Album. I'll Be On My Way makes the cut. And that's our magnificent 7 of pure Beatles concentrate. Now, let us sequence the mini-album. There's only one possible opener. Track 1, I Saw Her Standing There. We'll follow that with the hookiest song of all time, Please Please Me. Track 3, Love Me Do. Track 4, P.S. I Love You. Track 5, Do You Want to Know a Secret? Track 6, I'll Be On My Way. And track 7, the mighty, the powerful, Twist and Shout. Can you dig it?
Well, she was just 17, and you know what I mean. Last night I said these words to my girl. Love, love me do. You know I love you. You know I want you to remember that I'll always, yeah. Listen, do you want to know a secret?
What we hear in these 7 magnificent songs is a band that knows how to rock, and a band that is already mastering the art of songwriting. You can hear all of their influences from 20s standards and 30s music hall to 50s rock and roll. It's a live-sounding mini-album that comes alive with the ripping opening track. So what do you think? Have I created a better Please Please Me than Please Please Me? Let me know in the comments below. In the next episode of Beatleverse Mini-Albums, it's a big one, it's a tough one. It's the coolest Beatles album of all, Rubber Soul. Stay tuned for that. If you like and subscribe. Can you dig it?